Hi, I'm Laura Mize, Pediatric Speech-Language Pathologist, and welcome to my therapy guide for structured teaching tasks for Valentine's Day and winter-themed activities from teachmetotalk.com and myei2.com. In this video, I'll be teaching you 11 simple activities to help a young child improve attention, participation, and task completion skills with early structured teaching activities. So many of our little friends with language delays have a hard time when we first begin therapy with them. They have difficulty participating even if we're just getting them to try to play with a toy with us. When their task that we're asking them to complete is too complex or too demanding in some way, the child's flight or fight instinct kicks in. This might mean that a child runs away from the activity, or he may just simply redirect his attention and look bored. It could look like he's avoiding the activity and you. He may fuss or cry or have a full-blown meltdown. He may even become very aggressive with the activity or with you. A child with sensory processing differences responds in this kind of way to attempts to interact many times. By beginning to work with these kinds of kids with short, simple cognitive activities, will help them build attention and learn to complete an entire activity from start to finish. When we use activities that are non-verbal or visual in nature rather than language-based, we're actually focusing on a child's strengths rather than on his weaknesses. This is the starting point for therapy for many children who are on the autism spectrum or suspected to be or have those red flags, or even for children with other more global developmental delays. You'll often get better initial participation with these activities than anything else you could try. In my practice, I've found that higher functioning children on the autism spectrum also enjoy these activities during therapy when they need a break. Many typically developing children also like these activities. So if we're using these kinds of things, we're really helping all kinds of children learn important cognitive concepts which will lay the foundation for early academic success and for learning language. In most of the activities, you'll also be targeting fine motor, motor planning, and visual perceptual skills, so our colleagues who are PTs and OTs love these kinds of activities too. For more background about why we use these kinds of tasks in early therapy sessions, please take a look at the resources and references page at the end of your written therapy guide. Because this is a seasonal therapy guide, I've developed all of these activities using Valentine's Day and winter-themed materials. As a therapist, you can make these things this year and then save them to use every January and February throughout your career. Once you learn the basic premise for developing these activities, you'll also be able to take the ideas and then design other tasks to be able to be used throughout the rest of the year. As a parent, you'll be able to make these activities yourself to do with your own child at home. Many children do learn to become independent with these kinds of tasks, so eventually these activities can be used as a diversion or when you want a child to be able to play on his own for a few minutes. I have found in my practice that adult intervention is absolutely essential at the beginning to help a toddler with developmental delays learn what to do and be able to get through the entire task. You have to teach a child what you want him to do first before he's able to perform it on his own and before you can reasonably expect him to be able to do it without you being right there. I'll give all of my instructions for these activities for young children who are at this beginner introductory level. I'll also provide some strategies for helping children move on to learn to become more independent. If you're a therapist, you also want to be sure that you're helping parents do this, and these activities can be a big part of a child's home program. Some of the activities in this therapy guide may never be appropriate for a child to use on his own. If you're working with a child that's still very oral, meaning that he's still mouthing lots and lots of objects, then many of these activities are not going to be therapeutic because you're going to be so busy managing that. One thing that you may try for these kinds of kids is to offer a chewy tube for their little mouths as they use their hands. But please use your utmost discretion and provide close adult supervision whenever there's a doubt. Now, I've tried to arrange all of the activities in this therapy guide from easiest to most difficult, but honestly, that is so hard to judge without knowing the individual child that you're working with. You're going to have to consider a child's range of strengths and weaknesses and decide what activities will be appropriate and in what order you'll present those. You'll have to use your own judgment there. I can't help you do that. So let's get straight to the activities. Activity number 1 is really basic, but it's really cute too. For this one, you're going to need some white styrofoam, and I picked up these circles at Dollar Tree. I've also seen them at Walmart, Target, and other places like that. Now, don't use floral foam for this activity because some of the ingredients are toxic. Styrofoam is fine, but I still wouldn't let a kid eat it. You'll also need some of these really cute heart picks. And again, I found these at Dollar Tree several years ago, and they're still there this year. Now, the goal is for the child to stick the heart into the foam. Now, you can make this pretty structured by giving him a target for each heart. In this one, I've used some dots. You could also use some hole protectors to make it really structured, and he'll have to get the heart inside the little hole. Now let's talk about your presentation and how you'll teach each task. Rather than giving verbal instructions, you're going to want to show the child what to do first. The nonverbal aspects of these tasks are what make them a great introductory learning opportunity for so many of our little friends with significant language delays. You'll also have to decide how much you should talk based on the child that you're seeing. Many children with language delays can become overstimulated with too much talking, particularly when they're learning a new motor or cognitive skill. So resist the urge to overtalk. And again, that's something I struggle with every single day. Keep your instructions simple and upbeat, and there are some great examples in your written therapy guide. I'm also going to model exactly what I would say if I were teaching this to one of my little clients. Now, because this first task is so easy, you'll be able to get almost any toddler to do it. Children with motor delays or coordination issues may need some physical assistance to get started, but it's one that they should be successful with. So again, it's a nice starter task for most children. To begin, you're going to want to place your foam on the table or on the floor and get everything else out of the way so that there are no distractions. Hold the sticks so that you are included and are part of the activity. This is particularly important for children who tend to isolate themselves or who want to leave you out of an activity. Now, as you stick the hearts into the foam, you'll say something really simple like, "Look, heart, see? Wow, in, stick it in." Then you're going to give the child a heart for his turn and say something really simple like in or stick it in. Now, do not have the child try to request the hearts just yet. Most of the time, children who really benefit from this kind of structured teaching task are not developmentally ready to talk and certainly aren't ready to request. Adding that component may very well drive the child away from you and from the activity, so don't do that yet. Simply help a child learn the activity first. Now, if the child does not put the heart in the foam, what should you do? You should continue to cue him a few times, and then if he still doesn't do it, reach over, grab his little hand, and help him. You know, we call that hand-over-hand assistance for a reason, so be sure you're using that strategy here to help him learn the task. Praise the child when he gets the heart in the foam, and then quickly offer another heart so he'll know that there's another turn. Initially, only provide a few hearts for the child to put in. For example, you can begin with 5. Now, what do you do when you get your 5 hearts in? You move on. This is not a time to have a kid do this over and over for 30 minutes. That is torture. All of these tasks are designed to be really fast and help a child learn to complete an entire task from beginning to end so that you're building attention over time. All right, troubleshooting tips are what to do if your original attempts are not successful or in your written therapy guide. Let's talk about a couple of those right now. For starters, hold the foam to make it more stable and so that it doesn't repeatedly move around on the table with the child. You can eventually teach a child to hold the foam with one hand and then put the heart in with his other hand, but that might take a little while. Now, if a child is struggling and becoming increasingly frustrated, try a simpler everyday version of this same task. He could put the hearts into a colander, which has some larger holes, or just get any container that has bigger holes. Now, if a child is really struggling, I would probably modify this activity altogether and just let him take the hearts out that I've already placed in the styrofoam. It's a great place to begin. Now, if a kid really likes this activity, but you think he needs to be a little more challenged, then introduce 2 sets of hearts and have him sort them by color. Now, I'll give you some strategies for teaching sorting by color in an upcoming task, but I did want to make you aware of that variation and option with this first starter activity. I love it. It's simple, and again, you can get most children engaged and participating with you in this kind of task, and then you can bump it up when he or she are ready. For the next activity, we have these Valentine's Day pom-poms. This is another super easy task that you'll be able to get almost any young child to do. You're really working on finger isolation and even pincer grasp with this activity too, so it's a great fine motor teaching tool as well. Now, find a clear container with a lid. I just have this one from home, from some deli treat that we had at some point. And you'll also need to get a package of these small pom-poms, and again, I got them in Valentine's Day related colors. For the remainder of the year, of course, you can use any color that you'd like. Now, if this is an introductory activity, you'll just drill 1 hole in your lid big enough to accommodate your pom-pom. Place the rest of your pom-poms in a separate container so that the child can get used to picking one at a time and for putting them in, and it also helps contain the mess a little bit. At this point, if I were working with the child, I would still probably hold the container though, so that I can make sure that I'm included in the activity. Now, place the empty container on a table or on the floor, and again, rather than telling the child what to do, you're going to model the activity first. So show him, and you'll say, look, wow, see, goes in. And I would probably call this a ball if you were playing with a child, because that's a really functional, familiar word. So give the child a pom-pom then, and you'll say something really simple like in or put it in. And you'll help him if he can't quite get it in the hole. Now, a tip for that is make your hole a little bigger, but again, you want the child to have to work a little bit and hone those fine motor skills, so it's okay if he does have to push it a little harder than you might think that he would. Now, some children with motor delays are going to need physical assistance in the beginning, and that's okay. You'll just help them do it. Now, praise the child when he places the pom-pom in the hole, and quickly offer another pom-pom so he stays with you and gets in the habit of completing the entire task before he moves on. Now, you won't need to provide this many pom-poms at the beginning. Initially, only give him like 5, and then when he's finished, praise him and move on to a new task. Hold the container if it looks like he's having trouble, and again, this is in your troubleshooting tips section of your written therapy guide. If he's having lots of difficulty, you could make your holes a little larger, or if he's really frustrated, but you can see that he wants to still try to get it in, just take the lid off so that he's got a giant hole as his target. Now, once a child is pretty skilled with this activity, you can make him more independent with this task. You'll set it up just like I've done here. Place all the pom-poms in one container, and then your container with the holes separately so that he can pick them and then do this on his own. You can add another level of complexity by color coding additional holes so that a child has to match the right color hole with the right pom-pom. And again, when you are color coding, use a Sharpie or another kind of marker that's not going to rub off very well, but it's a great activity, especially for moms at home who may be on the phone or cooking dinner or need some kind of safe diversionary task for their child to do. This next activity is pretty easy too. We'll be doing Valentine's Day pipe cleaners. Now this is just one step up from the Pom-Pom activity that we just talked about. What you'll want to do is find yourself a clear container with a lid and buy 10 red pipe cleaners if this is a Valentine's Day activity for you. Of course, if you're looking at using it for the rest of the year, you can use any color that you would like, and you can also choose from a variety of containers. Now you may want to do this Parmesan cheese container if you have an empty one of those lying around your kitchen, or even something like this sugar shaker that already has holes. Now I'm using the container that I made last year for a water activity, and it's a mayonnaise jar, and we just drilled holes in the top, and so again it's perfect for this activity. Now you can place the pipe cleaners in a separate container, but at the beginning of this activity I would probably still hold the pipe cleaner so that you are making sure that you're included in the game. When you're doing this, you're working on joint attention so that the child has to pay attention to you and what you're doing. Now place your container with holes on a table or on the floor, and again, rather than telling the child what to do, you're going to show him how to put the pipe cleaner in a hole. Now as you push the pipe cleaner in, say something like, "Wow, see? In, push, push, push." And again, keep it really simple and really repetitive. Then you're going to give the child a pipe cleaner and let him try too. Now tap the hole as your cue so that he'll know where to start to get it. And some kids really might need physical assistance, especially in the beginning, to make sure that they keep pushing, especially to get the pipe cleaner all the way in the hole. This is a great activity for our little friends with low muscle tone or even motor planning issues. And again, our OT friends love it because we're giving them that OT practice. Now this task also takes lots of concentration for a young child, so don't overstimulate him with too much talking or by providing too much hands-on assistance. Now for a child that you feel like you're about to lose, keep handing him a new pipe cleaner so that he can try. And keep going. If the longer pipe cleaners are too frustrating, cut a few in half and practice that way first, and then you'll build that attention and that tolerance for doing a longer pipe cleaner. One other thing that I've done to help keep a child with me when he's gotten several pipe cleaners in is just to take the top off, unscrew it, and then let him reach his little hand in and pull the pipe cleaners out himself. Now reaching in a container like this is something that lots of our little friends need practice with as well. If a child is having lots of difficulty with the container that you made, switch to a container with some larger holes, or get your drill out again and make the holes larger. If a child is really struggling, just take the whole top off and give him that larger target so that he can get those pipe cleaners in without getting too mad. Now once a child is pretty skilled with this activity, you can make him more independent. Put all of your pipe cleaners in a separate container like this, and then set him up and let him finish it on his own. To make it a little more challenging, you might even add a color matching component like we talked about with the pom-poms, and you'll just pick a lid that you can color code, and so that a child will know how to match that. Now to increase the complexity a little further for your kids who need more of a fine motor challenge, you could try a new container with a different configuration of the holes like this one. I know a lot of little toddlers who would sit and work a pretty long time to see if they could get a whole pipe cleaner in a hole on one side and then as well as on the other. So again, keep looking for how you can improve and increase the complexity even with a simple starter task like this. And don't forget to pass this activity along to mom and dad so that they can use it as part of a child's home program. This next activity is designed to teach a child how to match by color. If a child has had difficulty with this skill in the past or with another activity that you've tried, you'll need to back up to this simpler version. Now buy one package of white Valentine's Doilies and another package of red Valentine's Doilies. If you can find them, it'll also help if you have these heart-shaped containers for matching as well. Now, I found these at Family Dollar. Place your heart-shaped containers beside each other, either on the table or on the floor. And again, if you don't have the containers, you can still do this activity, but you'll need to simply place one of each color out so that the child has a target for matching. Hold the remaining doilies so that you are still included in the game. Now, you're going to show a child how to stack the doilies or place them in the correct container rather than just telling him to do it. And you're going to say something really simple like, look, red heart goes in, see, match. And then you'll do the same thing with your white container or your white heart. You'll say, look, white heart, see, heart goes in. Then you'll give the child a doily and say, here, in. And you'll provide cues like pointing if he seems unsure of what to do. Now, children with motor delays, of course, may need some help getting the right heart in the right place. But let's talk about another category of our little friends. Our little friends who have cognitive delays are going to need help with this too, because they don't understand what to do. They may not get the matching or understand the matching component yet. Now, you're not going to allow a child to repeatedly make mistakes as he's learning this kind of new skill. Guide his hand toward the right container if you see him headed for the wrong choice. If he gets too mad at you, you may even just pick up the correct container and then put it right under the heart as he's trying to reach for it and match it. This is called errorless teaching, and it's a very valuable strategy as you work with toddlers. Now, if you constantly find yourself telling a child, no, that's wrong, then actually you're the one doing it wrong. We don't need to overtly correct and criticize children as they're learning a new skill. That is just too negative for toddlers. And you may be cementing helping a child learn the skill the wrong way if you allow him to make mistake after mistake after mistake. So focus on helping a child get it right, even as he's learning this new skill. This approach makes it so much more pleasant for everyone involved. Here's a great task for a child who needs more practice learning to match by color. In this one, we're matching these tiny Valentine's Day heart picks. Now, buy yourself a package of colored, heart-shaped appetizer picks from a place like Walmart or the dollar store, anywhere like that. And then get yourself some matching containers. Now, I like these small cups, and I think they're just perfect for this kind of matching activity. Begin with matching only 2 colors, and then a child is more skilled with this task, bump them up to matching 3 or 4 or even more colors. As you'll place a heart in the matching cup, say something simple to narrate your actions, such as, look, red heart. Where's it go? Red goes in here, in red. And then you'll do the same thing with the next color so that a child gets the idea that you put the right heart in the right cup. Now, you'll give the child one of the hearts so that he can have a turn, and again, say something really simple like blue in, so that you're giving him again, really simple, clear cues. If the child doesn't put the heart in the right place after you cue him several times, help him get it in the right cup. If he's on the verge of making a mistake, say something like, wait, red here, red heart goes here. Just like we talked about in the last activity, we don't want to let a child repeatedly fail or wait until he's done it wrong to provide redirection. You really don't want him thinking it's okay to just put the stick or the heart wherever he wants to do it. So we can't let him make that mistake over and over and over again. You've got to redirect and teach and not depend on correcting mistakes. You're going to offer more cues by tapping the right cup so that when he picks up a red heart, you start tapping the red cup if he needs that kind of direction. Or you can even pick up the cup that he is holding the heart for and lean it toward him so that he knows, okay, this is the right one. Matching by color is the very first step in learning to name colors. Now, our main purpose here for this task is just to teach a child how to match, not to repeatedly say, what color is this? what color is this? You're going to simply model the color word over and over and over and resist the urge to ask a child, you know, what color is that one? Or tell me that color. Naming colors is going to come much later, but we have to teach them how to match first. This next activity is a Pinterest favorite. Now, I've used these kinds of tasks for years and years and years, and now there are hundreds of versions and variations out there. If you've never taken a look at teachmetotalk.com's Pinterest pages, I'd encourage you to do that. You can find tons of ideas for sensory boxes as well as other activities to use in therapy. Let's talk about making a sensory box for a toddler using Valentine's Day and winter themed materials. Not only do I want to give you some additional ideas to use, but I want to make sure that you're maximizing your goals during this structured teaching time. Let's start with ideas for materials. First of all, you'll always begin with a plastic box. Now, I like ones with lids so that I can put it away and then use it later and really minimize the mess. Next, you'll pick your filler material. For Valentine's Day, you might use these rose petals. I got these last year. Or you could also use this great paper shred. For winter, you want to pick something that looks like snow. So you might use white rice or even cotton balls because they're going to look like snowballs. Next, you're going to add materials to support the child's goals. Now, there are so many examples in your written therapy guide, and I've even included some that aren't specific to this structured teaching task. It's not just enough to throw something together and then call it therapy. As therapists, we really need to plan what we use and then why we use it. So for example, if I'm going to be working with a child with strong visual preferences, I know that he's going to more likely attend to bright, sparkly items. So I'm going to gather those kinds of materials for my sensory box. So for a Valentine's Day box with this kind of kid, I'd get things like this. I'd use the heart pick that we did for the Styrofoam activities, other glittery hearts here, maybe some garland if I wanted to cut it apart so he could pull it through the material. That would be a great idea. But again, I'm paying attention to his sensory needs there. Now for kids with sensory goals like those, or even ones who maybe have some tactile sensitivities, or for those who crave sensory input, you're going to want to take that into account when you're making a sensory box for them. Talk to a child's OT about the materials that would be useful for that particular child. Now for a child who's working on play skills, gather some familiar objects to use with your sensory box. Like for this one that I've done for my little friend, he needs to work on play skills in addition to his language goals, and he also needs to work on tool use. So this box is going to be great for him. I just read a study yesterday from the Journal of Occupational Therapy, Schools and Early Intervention. When children who have sensory sensitivities engaged in pretend play incorporated with messy play, or a sensory activity like this, the participants showed improvements in their initiation of pretend play. This is great justification and now evidence-based practice for using messy play, including sensory boxes, with these kinds of kids. The new sensory experiences either hook the kids' attention, or it could be that it makes pretend play more meaningful for them. So to get pretend play going, you may have to introduce it in a very structured way, such as this one, and I'm going to give you some ideas for that. You're going to help the child, when you first introduce a sensory box, begin to explore and discover the items in the box. Now you need to match your language and your actions to the child's goal. For example, for our little guy who's learning how to attend, you're going to use words like look or see so that you're really directing his attention of what you're doing. You can also try words that would capture his attention, like exclamatory words like wow or oh boy, to direct his attention again to the task that you're sharing together. If the child's goal is to develop play skills, you are going to repeatedly model play skills. So for this box that I told you about for my little friend who needs practice with language and play and tool use, we would do something like this. We're going to use our dump truck and we're going to repeatedly fill it up with our cotton that looks like snowballs, and we'll say, fill it up, fill it up, fill it up, and dump. And again, you're showing him how to do that. Now, I used a smaller truck here. If that's not enticing enough for a kid that you work with, even if you're using a sensory box, even if it won't fit, get a bigger truck to use. So again, you can teach him how to play and how to begin this first level of initiating pretend play. You're going to remember, you're going to establish some verbal routines just like we did before. You may even need to use a bigger spoon to get him to want to play with you. And so you'll say something, you know, like I said, or even try something really simpler like in, and dump. And help him do those things. And you're not going to just do it one time. You may spend 5 minutes doing this kind of thing with a child. And again, your goal is to build that participation, and you do it by helping a child and staying with them. Now, if you have a kid who's not crazy about trucks, what do you do to get pretend play going? Well, you may take these fake shampoo glasses that I got at the Dollar Tree and then fill them up with snow too. And again, you've got your tool use component. You're still using, you know, a larger tool like that big spoon or even a smaller one. And you're going to fill it up, and then you're going to pretend to drink and have the kid do that too. Now, you may be thinking, Laura, that does not make a lot of sense. We do not drink snow. Guess what? It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. Anything that captures the toddler's attention can serve as a bridge for beginning pretend play. You can also use a sensory box for structured teaching for a toddler who doesn't verbally imitate at all. You're going to want to begin by teaching him to imitate really simple actions with objects. Use a spoon or this, you know, like this cute heart scooper that I have here. And again, you're going to say something really repetitive to match your actions. You might do pat, 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 pat as you pat the rice with your scooper. Or you might stir with a spoon and say something like stir, stir, stir. And again, your goal here, not is that the child is going to imitate the words, is so that he begins to imitate your actions. And working with a material like this is much, much better to get that initial goal of imitation going than more complex activities and language. Now, be sure for kids who can tolerate more language to use auditory bombardment so that they're hearing you target your language models. Now, if you're a speech pathologist, you're really familiar with that term. For those of you who aren't speech pathologists, that just means that you're going to have the kid repeatedly hear your language target. Most of the kids who benefit from structured teaching also need receptive language focus too, so auditory bombardment is great. So for a kid like that, let's go back to our winter activity. What would we say? You're going to say, look, truck, a cool truck, see? Go truck. Truck in the snow. See my truck? Wow, truck. Watch out. Truck's coming. How many times did I say truck in that example? And again, you would slow it down. You wouldn't do it quite as fast as I modeled it for you there. But you get my point. Research tells us that a child needs to hear a word at least 20 times before we can reasonably expect that child to be able to imitate it. Guess what? If a child has a language delay, you need to multiply that number. He has to hear that word over and over and over again. So pick out your key words and model, model, model. Sensory boxes are great for this kind of focus stimulation too. I hope that you'll be able to take these ideas, put some thought into what you're using, vary your goals and your materials from child to child, and get the most out of sensory boxes in your upcoming therapy sessions. The next couple of activities are designed to teach size. For the first one, find 2 winter-themed buckets. You'll need a small one and a larger one. And you'll also need to buy packages of snowflakes or anything with a large and a small component. Now remove the lids of your buckets, and you're going to give a child a clue as to what goes in each bucket. By that I mean you're going to go ahead and put a large snowflake in the bottom of the large bucket, and a small snowflake in the bottom of the small bucket. Now, if you're going to use a separate container to make a child more independent, go ahead and do that. I like using this kind of white box. You can also have a kid stick his little hand in there and pull out the one that he likes, which is fun for a lot of toddlers. Some kids won't like that though. That might turn them off. So use whatever variation you think will work best. So set out your buckets and the container of snowflakes, and you're going to say something to introduce your task. You'll say, wow, here's a big bucket. And look, this one's little. It's a little bucket. Now you're going to show the child the snowflakes. And again, rather than telling him, you're going to show him what to do. So you'll say, look in here. I have snowflakes. It's a big snowflake. Where's the big one go? Look, goes here in the big bucket. And you'll do the same thing for the small snowflake, keeping your language really, really simple. You know, you'll say, look, it's little, a little snowflake. Where's the little one go? Here in the little bucket. And you're going to give the child his own turn with one of the snowflakes. And again, cue him. You may not talk as much. You may say something like big in or little one in, not to overstimulating him as he's trying to figure out the task. If he doesn't seem to be learning to sort correctly, you'll offer more cues like we've talked about already. You might tap the right bucket so that he has a better idea of where to put it. You might hold the bucket out to him. So again, you're not letting him make mistakes to help him learn. You're going to help him get it right as he learns. It's also not a good idea to require that the child verbally respond to a question like, is it big or little? You know, that can really maybe force his attention somewhere else. We can really lose a kid in an activity like this because he may not be developmentally ready to respond to this kind of question. If you find yourself doing this out of instinct, answer your own question and you can make it a verbal routine. You might say something like, is it big or little? It's big. And then you'll do the same thing with the next one. Is it big or little? It's little. And so again, not every kid might respond to that, but when you find yourself messing up, you can always save it by using something like that. This is also a task that I've modified for a child who's further along developmentally, but he might need a movement break when we're in the middle of other therapy activities. So be sure that the child understands size first. You might have to teach it first or do a little check to be sure he gets it, but then you can turn this into a really nice racing or running game. You're going to move the buckets across the room from the child, and you'll be on the other end of the room and have the child there with you, and then you'll let him pick a snowflake and then run, put it in the correct bucket, and then run back to you to get another snowflake. This is a great activity. It's even great with groups of children, and I love it because you're also teaching and reinforcing the concept of size. This next activity is a bump up for a child who already has a basic understanding of size. You're going to purchase heart-shaped foam stickers, or you may get something like table scatter is what I think is listed on the packages that I bought. And again, you're going to want to make sure that you're getting two different sizes. Get one package that's at least larger than the smaller package that you get. Now, if you prefer, you can make your own hearts out of construction paper or other kinds of material. Just be sure that you're cutting out some hearts that are bigger than the others. You'll also need a heart-shaped box or a container with a lid, and a separate container to hold the hearts is going to be really useful for some children. As you can see, I'm reusing this one from a previous activity. You'll cut or drill a hole or a slot in the container or the box that you're using. Now set out the box in the container of hearts, and you'll begin by selecting a heart and showing the child how to place it in the correct slot of the box. Now as you model placing each item in the correct slot, be sure that you're saying something simple and that you're teaching while you're doing it. So you'll say, look, big heart, where's the big one go? C goes in the big hole. And again, you'll do this several times so that a child really understands what you're talking about. You'll say, now look, this one's little heart. Where's little heart go? Goes in the little hole. You'll give a child one of the hearts to let him try on his own. And again, you may have to simplify your language at this point so he doesn't get lost in all your words. You can say something like big N. And you'll provide all of the cues that we've already discussed in the previous activities to make sure that he's not making a mistake or if a child seems unsure of what to do. Now, in the beginning, a child may only want to sort or match or whatever we're calling this, a few hearts by size before he's finished with this activity. You'll gradually increase the number of hearts that you provide to sort. To be sure that you're really helping a child learn or isolate the concept of size, you need to use hearts of different colors so that he's really mastering what you're trying to teach. So you want a child really learning all the big hearts go in the big slot no matter what color they are. To make this activity even more of a challenge for your older preschoolers or for a child who loves this kind of task, add 2 boxes that, and again with another color so that a child is now sorting and discriminating between 2 different characteristics. That would be by size and by color. Now, of course, you're only going to do this with children who are developmentally ready. I have a little girl in mind that I'm going to see next week, and I cannot wait to do this with her. She's on the spectrum, and she is oh so smart, but so many times she needs a break in between our other language activities. And sometimes I need something for her to do while I'm explaining something to her mom. I know her mom is going to love this too, and I think it's a great activity that I hope that you're able to use with children at Valentine's Day too. This next activity is a real motor challenge for toddlers. For this one, you're going to need 3 different components. First of all, find an object to be manipulated or held. For Valentine's Day, I found these really cute plastic Valentine's Day stones, they call them, but again, they're not stones, they're plastic. And I got those from Dollar Tree. Or if you're using a winter theme, you may try cotton balls to be snowballs. The next component you're going to need is a container with slots. I was so excited when I found this heart-shaped ice cube tray at Dollar General. But really, if you're using a winter theme, or you can just use a regular ice cube tray or any other container that you have around the house with slots. You could use a muffin pan or even an empty egg carton. The last component for this activity is a tool for the child to use. Now, I love these kid-sized tweezers. These are brand new and not broken in yet, so they're going to be a little bit more difficult until we use them over and over. I found these on Amazon from Learning Resources. If you don't have those, you can try other tongs that might be available. If you're doing cotton balls, you might try an ice cream scooper or another spoon. I also love these little heart scoopers that I found. A separate flat container, such as a plate or a tray, may also be useful for placing the objects on. As they're manipulated with your tools or tongs. You could also just place the objects on the table if you wanted to. I'm using the top of this box because I think it provides support for a child who might need that when he's trying to scoop the item up and needs something there. Now, you're going to choose the same number of objects as slots for sorting. So for example, if you have 10 hearts here, you're going to pick 10 hearts to put inside. You really want to teach that one-to-one correspondence. For an egg carton, you'll pick 12 of whatever you have. Again, you're reinforcing that one-to-one. You'll set out the container here and your tool, and you'll have your tray of objects. And again, you're going to need to show the child how to do what you want him to do. So you'll pick up your heart and you'll say something like, oops, heart, I got it, see? And then put it in there. It goes in. And again, keep your language really, really simple. It is fine if you can't do it the first try either, because that lets the child know this might be a little bit hard. So again, model it several times. You may switch to a different tool just to show a child that he has options there. Okay, many toddlers are going to need physical assistance to get some initial success with this task. Of course, you are going to praise any effort that the child makes, even if he drops the piece like I did. And again, work in your exclamatory words there. Say, uh-oh, or oh no, and again, keep it light and happy. It is not a good idea to require that the child verbally request the next object to sort. By doing that, you might lose the child's attention because he may not be developmentally ready to talk, and certainly not while he's trying to learn a new motor skill. Now, if the child becomes overly frustrated with learning to use the tongs or tweezers, go to a simpler tool like I showed you. I went to my heart scooper when I couldn't get my new tweezers to work. If that modification is unsuccessful, just let the child place the object in with his hands. And again, you're teaching that one-to-one correspondence. Over time, you could reintroduce a tool there. Offer different variations of this activity for children who need that additional motor practice and for children who seem to enjoy this task. And you can always switch out your tools or your materials or anything. So many toddlers need lots and lots of exposure to this kind of activity. Your OT friends are going to love you for including this as part of your sessions and for reinforcing these skills with mom. This is another really fun activity for groups, and you could even make this one into a little race. Now, you may not want to have very much distance because the toddlers are probably going to spill the object as they're trying to walk across the room, and that's okay. That will make it pretty fun for everybody. And you can check out the written therapy guide for all the variations that I talked about. I love this next activity. It's matching patterns with Valentine's Day erasers. So what you'll want to do is buy a set or two of Valentine's Day or winter themed erasers, and you'll place them in a separate container. You're going to group all of your erasers in sets of 2 or 3. Now be sure that you're grouping them so that the ones that you're choosing don't look anything alike, and that will really facilitate matching. Place your erasers in a row, and you're going to do this so that you can make some patterns. Now, to make the pattern, take pictures of your erasers and then print the picture. For my patterns, I place them on a scanner, and you can do the same with a regular copy machine. After you get your picture printed, you're going to cut the picture into strips so that you can use these for your matching activity. Laminate the strips. If you don't have a laminator, get one. They're only about 30 bucks from a place like Walmart or even an office supply place, and you'll use it all the time. It's so worth your money. If you don't have a laminator, you could use clear contact paper, which is a great alternative to laminating. Now, to introduce this task, you're going to point to the pictures of the erasers, or point to the picture and then your erasers, and you're going to say, wow, see these pictures? Look, the picture matches my toys. Let's match. And then you're going to select the matching eraser from the container and show the child how to place it directly on top of the correct picture in each pattern. Now, as you place the correct eraser on the picture, make sure that you're narrating what you're doing. So you'll say something really simple like, look, snowflake. Where's the snowflake? Help me find the snowflake. And you'll put it on, and you'll do that a time or two so that the child really understands the task. Direct the child's attention to the next pattern strip, and you'll say, it's your turn, you find these matches. What's that? And you'll point to the first picture, and then you'll direct his attention back to your container of erasers. Now be sure that you're still providing a lot of cues, like pointing if the child seems unsure of what to do next. If the child doesn't seem to be learning how to match, offer more cues. You know, again, you can do some tapping, or you could even do some covering up, or even take just a couple of options out of your container. So again, you're making it more simple. If the child leaves before he's finished, he's telling you some important information. He says, I can't do this much, or this is too hard for me. So next time you're going to be sure to reduce your set size. That may mean he'll do 2 strips instead of the 3 strips you were trying to get him to do. Or he might only be able to do 2 erasers per pattern rather than 3. It may mean you have to back way up and only do 1 eraser per strip to really teach him what he's doing. You have to do lots and lots of hands-on direct teaching here, particularly if a child's making lots of mistakes. And again, if that's the case, you need to back up and probably teach object matching with another activity and then move on to this one later when he's obviously gotten it a little bit. Remember, anytime that a child can't do an activity, it means that we need to modify it or revise our goal. The same holds true even when we're doing these really simple structured teaching activities. This last activity is one I've used for about 10 years now, and it's so good for fine motor practice. This one is lacing hearts. Now, I've made my hearts from pieces of sturdy cardboard. Then I glued cute scrapbook paper to cover each heart. The next thing you'll do is punch holes about 1 inch or so apart around the edges for lacing. For lacing, you're going to need to buy some shoelaces, some ribbons, or some thicker strings. I actually prefer shoelaces because the ends are already secured for you. Now tie 1 knot in the end so that a child won't be able to pull the whole thing through and then not ever get to see his finished work. Remember that we're teaching here, so you're going to have to show a child exactly what to do and how to place the end of the string into the hole and then pull it through the other side. As you lace your heart, you're going to say something really simple like, look, goes in here, in the hole, now pull, so that you're really narrating what you're doing the whole time. Repeat this process several times so that a child can really see what you're doing, and give it to him once he seems to want to turn. You're going to give really simple directions again and say something like put it in or goes in the hole. And you can even create a really cute verbal routine by saying pull the whole entire time he pulls a string through. And again, I've done this for about 10 years. Kids love that part, and that's the hook that sometimes keeps the kid trying again. You're going to provide cues like pointing if the child seems unsure of what to do, and most of the children that you're going to try this with are going to need some level of physical assistance to learn to complete this task. Be sure that you're praising effort through the whole thing, even if a child is really struggling, and initially he may only be able to lace a couple of holes before he's finished, and that's okay because this is hard and it's going to take him some time to learn how to do it. Gradually increase the number of holes that he's doing every time you bring out this activity, and sometimes encouraging a child by saying, you know, one more time, just do one more, makes him a little more willing to try. Now, it's usually not a good idea for you to have a child talk during this activity because it requires so much focus and so much concentration, and we can so lose a child's attention if we really push that talking piece because he may not be developmentally ready yet. So just keep it with you narrating so that he can hear what you're saying, but don't necessarily make him respond. If a child doesn't seem to be learning to lace correctly, provide more physical assistance. If physical assistance really frustrates him or gets on his nerves, just model the task with another heart and keep it light and upbeat and fun. Another tip to use may be that you get someone else to come provide the physical assistance, somebody like daddy or an older sibling that the child really loves, or even grandma. He may be more willing to accept that hands-on help with another person, so try that change to see if that helps. Complete the part of the task for the child that seems most difficult. For example, you're going to let him do the part that's easiest for him. If the easy part for him is pulling, you'll just stick it in the hole for him and then let him pull it on through. It could be the other way around. He really might like putting it in the hole and then you pull it for him. So again, figure out what's best for each child that you're working with. Lacing activities can be a great diversion, and they're a super activity for long car rides and other times when the child is forced to wait or is confined. Check out the ideas for lacing hearts in your written therapy guide. That's all for this time. I hope that you're able to incorporate these ideas into your therapy sessions and, more importantly, teach parents how to do these kinds of activities at home. I'm Laura Mize, Pediatric Speech-Language Pathologist, and happy Valentine's Day from TeachMeToTalk.com and myei2.com.